guys, Jamie here. So today I thought I would just go over some breakfast options for a high carb, low fat lifestyle. So if you're currently already on this lifestyle, or maybe you're transitioning from another diet over to high carb, low fat, maybe you're coming from keto or carnivore. Um, and yeah, I feel bad for these people on keto carnivore because it's like, why are you torturing yourself? And you're restricting the very thing that you run off of. Like, it's absolutely essential that you get. Um, they're just falling for a lot of lies and propaganda, in my opinion. And once you know, you know. I mean, I do really feel bad for these people. And you know what? I've been there myself. Like, I've never been keto carnivore, but years ago I was very into high fat, and I fell for that whole messaging. And yeah, that was disastrous. But yeah. So, anyways, just depending on where you're coming from, it's just to have some breakfast ideas. Okay. So obviously, you know what I'm going to say. My number one preference would be fruit. Okay. I have fruit every day for breakfast, and I have for so many years, like 8 years now, I think. And my preference is to get in a smoothie because it just really gets in a lot of nutrition, a lot of calories, which is very important. Okay, you really want to get in a lot of calories in the morning to have energy for the day. And you trust me, you won't need, if you're eating fruit, you will not need caffeine, you won't need stimulants, and you won't need drugs. Okay, why would you want to be on drugs instead of fruit? Okay. But yeah, so my preference would be like 4 or 5 bananas. Even if you don't like bananas, you're not going to taste the bananas, but they add the calories, a creaminess to the smoothie. But 4 to 5 bananas, and like for me, 2 cups of orange juice. You use whatever it is that you like, but it has to be no fat. It can't be any sort of milk, no overt fat. It has to be water, coconut water, a juice of some kind. I use orange juice, and then I'll put in 2 cups of frozen fruit. I like mangoes and raspberries, but you whatever it is that you like. Wild blueberries is really good. Peaches, mango, raspberries, and yeah, whatever it is that you like. But no overt fats. This is the key thing. We don't want any overt fats. We don't want to be consuming overt fats with carbs. This is where the problems come in. This is what causes insulin resistance and leads to blood sugar issues, diabetes, prediabetes, and also all that contributes to a lot of like energy issues, mood issues, and cognitive function issues. I mean, just it's not worth it. Just keep it out. Have a little bit of discipline and some restraint, and keep your fats for the end of the day. I promise you, it's not that hard. You just have to get in a lot of fruit calories, and you'll be fine. But that would be my preference. Or you could do a fruit bowl. You could do like, a mixture of raspberries and bananas and mango. And, you could add maybe some mint on top and a bunch of honey. And, or, now that it's kind of fall, winter time here, you could do like pears, apples, and bananas and some dates. But again, don't put in any overt fats. It's very important. Okay. So yeah, and then my next best option would be potatoes. Some sort of a potato dish. That would be the next best option. And what you could do is, if you want like a quick breakfast, you can get those packaged shredded potatoes, but make sure it has the ones with no oil. It has to say 0 fat. There's no oil added to it. That's very important. And you can take shredded potatoes, mix it with whatever herbs and seasonings you want, and then you can put in some spinach, maybe some onion, like sliced onion. You could do like red pepper, things like that. No olives or anything, because again, that has overt fats in it. No avocado, and no meat. Okay, no eggs, no nothing, no dairy, just the potatoes and the veggies and the seasoning. And then what you're going to do is you can put it on, if you have one of those skillets with in your stove, or you get like one of those skillets like a George Foreman, and you just put it on there, okay, until it's nice and crispy and cooked. And then you could top that with, whatever it is that you like that's fat-free sauce. Maybe you like ketchup, maybe you like hot sauce. I use maple syrup. I make this at the end of the day. I always have fruit for breakfast. That's just my preference. But I'm just saying, if you wanted to have it, that would be a good option for breakfast. Okay, it's so delicious. And then an alternative thing that you can do is I'll just steam potatoes. Okay, you put them in the fridge, and then you mash them. And you basically just take the mashed potatoes with all those same ingredients that I just mentioned, and you put it in a waffle maker. And it kind of gives it a little bit of a different texture than the one I just mentioned. And again, you just top it with hot sauce or ketchup or maple syrup. That's my preference. And it's delicious, guys, and it will give you really good energy. As much energy as fruit? No. This is why I say to have fruit. But that would be the next best option in my opinion. And then the next option could be oats. And when you're consuming oats, guys, I'm seeing people having 1/4, 1/2 of a cup of oats, and that's their breakfast. That is not enough calories at all. So I would recommend, for sure, I'm a cup and a half of oats. And then you can put no nuts or seeds on top. You can put whatever fruit you like, berries, bananas, pears, apples. You could put cinnamon and top it off with maple syrup or brown sugar. And that's a really good option as well, okay? You do not want to add milk to it or nuts or seeds. And then I guess the next best option would be like a low-fat bread, like a bread that's made with no oil. They are out there. You just have to look for them, and you have to read the ingredients, and you want to see 0 grams of fat in per serving, or even just 1 gram of fat per serving, and have that with jam. Okay, really lather it up with lots of jam, your favorite jam. That would be, and some honey. I would put honey on there for sure. Yeah, that would be the next best option. Now, if you're somebody who's like maybe more keto, like higher fat, that's what you're used to, the next best option, I would say, even though I wouldn't do this, but the next best option, maybe if you're transitioning, is to have avocado on toast. Again, get a good bread that's no fat. But you just have to remember, that's a gluten. If I personally, I'm not a huge fan of gluten, and I don't tolerate gluten well. So, this is like the bottom of the barrel in terms of my recommendation. But I mean, some people eat gluten and they seem to be okay with it. But yeah, you can have a low-fat toast with avocado, because avocado is actually even though it does have fats in it, it still actually has lots of glucose, and the fat content isn't as high as a lot of other things that people are having for breakfast with fat in it. So that would be like the next best thing, would be like a low-fat bread with a little bit of avocado on top, and maybe even some, maybe you want to add some herbs or spices or even some honey, like that might be good. So that's more for people who are transitioning and they're coming off of like keto carnivore, where their breakfasts are, like lots of eggs and meat, like and pork and stuff. Like that is wicked high fat content. So if you were to go to a low fat bread with avocado, your fat will be coming way down. So that is an option. But yeah, so I would say that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, trying to think of another option. I guess like I just don't ever consume cereal, but if you were to if it's like the weekend and you want to have like a more fun cheat, trying to find the cleanest cereal that you can. A lot of them are really bad in my opinion. Like a lot of them have wheat in them and a lot of chemicals and stuff, but there is some cleaner ones I have seen that don't have the chemicals, and they're made of oats. You don't really want the wheat-based ones in my opinion. But there is ones out there that you can get oat-based that have cleaner ingredients without all those toxic chemicals in them and preservatives, that are low fat. That would be like the next thing I would say, if you don't feel like any of the other options that I mentioned. But yeah, guys, so I guess that's it for today. Just remind you guys that we run on carbohydrates, not fat. Okay, it's very important that we realize this. And I'm not saying not to eat those foods, but have those foods for the end of the day. It's for your own benefit. But yeah, but that's my video for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll be back again for another video. Thanks, guys. Bye.